Okay, I know many of you are frustrated when you see your oil pressure gauge bouncing either clear to 80 and staying pegged at 80, or it's bouncing around, or it even stays at 0. But in all actuality, it's your oil sending unit giving you the problem. I've had to change quite a few of those, and you don't have to take the motor all apart to get to that oil sending unit. I found a shortcut to get to it, and you can probably get it done in about 30 minutes. So if you watch the steps that we take you through, you will be able to get this job done and save yourself a lot of money. Okay, this can be a frustrating job for novice mechanics, but if you got some mechanical skills, I think you can work through this with me. You got to come in through the driver's side. The oil sending unit is right behind a sound barrier panel that's hooked to the intake manifold. It's located in the middle of the block. First step you have to do is pull the engine cover, which is right here. You got to pull your fuel line to get it out of the way. You got to pull a couple your fuel return vapor line. I disconnect that and get it out of the way. And I also take the PVC valve tube that goes into your intake manifold out of the way and just get it clear out of the way. Then that gives you access to go in the back side with your hand. Gets pretty tight, but you can get in the back of the manifold. If you got a small hand, you're better off. Okay, when you get ready to take the oil pressure sending unit out of the engine, you need a special socket that fits your sending unit, like so. And it needs to be a deep socket. You can pick one of these up at O'Reilly's or AutoZone. It is a, what is this size? 1 1/16 inches. So that's the size you need socket, a deep socket to fit over your sending unit. And I ran a universal 1/2 inch with a short extension, and then I have a 1/2 inch to 3/8 adapter on the end of that with a swivel ratchet. It's kind of an oddball angle when you're in there, so when you hook it on, you've got different angles you can, turn and tighten and loosen, and it works out pretty slick for this job. Okay, your sending unit is going to be back behind this cover, which is behind, it's a sound cover that goes on right on the back of the intake manifold, and it kind of hooks in with your vacuum line right here for the brakes. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get to everything, but I had to disconnect the fuel line, which is right here. You pull it and get it out of the way. You got an evaporator line that snaps in right here. It's got a quick disconnect, and you got to push on that and it will release. And then there's another line over here that fell down, and it goes on your valve cover back here, and it plugs into your intake and then goes on the back of the valve cover. So I pulled these out of the way for right now so you can have some clearance. Okay, we got a sound barrier panel that goes behind the intake manifold, and that's the major problem from an 07 on up Suburban. And to get to this sending unit, it'll fight you all the way. So you got to be careful with that. Your oil pressure sending unit is directly behind it. It's got a little clip on the electrical connector that unsnaps. You get that connector and wire out of the way, and then you fish this socket in here. You might want to just start off like this and feed it back in there over the top of the sending unit. Once you get it on there, then you can come back here with this ratchet, snap it on, and then loosen it. And once you get it loose, sometimes you spin it by hand, or just keep spinning until you get it out, and that should work. It's very handy to have one of these flashlights, high-powered light that'll give you a high beam. I can see the sending unit from here. There's a little hole in the bottom of that cover that I can see the unit. So you can tell when you get the socket over the top of it. And I'm going to try to sneak that socket in there right now and see if I can get it to start. Okay, I was able to sneak it in, and you can now see how much is sticking out. My extension and my universal and my deep socket. That's about how much you see coming out of the back of the motor. And then I'm going to take my ratchet wrench, and recall I put a reducer on here for a 3/8 because it's easy to get in here. And let me see if I can get it started here. It's kind of fighting me now, but okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, now that you get your oil sending unit out of the back of the intake, back of the block there, it has a little weather pack insulator inside it. Your new one doesn't come with it. So what you need to do is take a little screwdriver, go down the side of it, gently take it out, and now we will insert the weather pack insulation inside the new oil sending unit like that. We'll thread it back in. Okay, now you can see that this is kind of a difficult job. It's tight, it's frustrating, but it's worth the effort to get it in there. The very first time that I tried to change one of these, I totally removed the intake manifold from the engine. It was a lot of work, pain in the neck, probably over half a day work, and just to get that out. But if you use the method I'm using, it shouldn't take you that long. Depending on your skill sets, you might be able to get it in and out in about, half hour or so. But it is possible to go in through the backside, like I say, with a special socket, universal, and a ratchet wrench. You're good to go. Should be able to pull it out and take your time gingerly putting it back in so you don't drop it. Everything's tight back there, and I got big hands, as you can see. They get scraped up a little bit, but you can get it in there and save a lot of time. Okay, we're going to take the sending unit and we're going to sneak it on back behind the intake manifold and behind this cover. It's like directly right behind that cover, and it goes down and then threads in. So I'm going to try to do it with just by my hand. Dude, I got it. As you can see, I got my hand way back in here, and I'm holding the sending unit with a couple fingers, and I'm gingerly putting it over the hole and starting the threads. And I was able to get it started on the first time, so I feel pretty good about that. Okay, just got the connector back on the sending unit. I had to gingerly put it on and spin it till it indexed, and then push down till it locks. Now we're ready to put the fuel line back on. The fuel quick disconnect, and that's right here. I'll be pushing that back on until it locks. And then we got another little lock, safety lock that goes on there. Let me grab that. Here's your safety lock. It goes in like this. Push in and then down like that. That keeps that's a safety lock for your fuel line. Okay, we just fired the vehicle up, and noticed that the oil pressure was at 0 now instead of being full pegged. So we figured we needed to reset the computer to reset the codes. Okay, you might have to reset the computer by taking your positive cable off. Well, actually, it's best to take your negative one off. But in this case, I took the positive one off just because it's a little easier to get at. But you have to reset your computer, put your battery back on, cable back on, tighten it up. Fire your engine back up, and oil pressure should be back to normal, and it will clear your code, and it gives your computer a chance to reset. Okay, the last thing we need to do here is make sure everything's buttoned up. You got all your fuel line on properly, you got your vapor line back on, and your engine crankcase breather tube is attached to the valve cover and the intake manifold. Last thing I got to do here is put the little engine cover back on. You kind of got to gingerly get that back in there, and then set it in place, and then lock it in place like that on the rubber grommet, and you're all done.